Hello and welcome to a tactical history of Liverpool. Following their victory over Coventry, Liverpool would travel down to London to face West Ham, where goals from John Toshak and Steve Highway would see them come away with the 2 points. This meant that with just 3 games to go, they were in an excellent position to win the league. Manchester United had built up an early lead, but had fallen apart, dropping down into mid-table, having won just 4 matches since early December. Manchester City took over, going 5 points clear in March. Since then though, they had won just 2 matches. The signing of Rodney Marsh from Queen's Park Rangers in that same month was widely blamed for this downturn in form, with Marsh himself even admitting, "I cost Manchester City the 1972 League Championship." Marsh was no doubt talented, helping QPR to go from a 3rd division to the 1st division. However, he was also an individualist. This meant he struggled to fit in with Malcolm Allison's side, first replacing him and playing alongside Wyn Davies up front. City's attack was built around quick passing and movement, so having Marsh hogging the ball brought them to a standstill. City had just 1 match left to play, against league leaders Derby County. Like Liverpool, Derby had struggled through the winter, but were finishing strongly, having lost just 2 of their last 17 games. The Rams were top, but only by a point, and their remaining 2 matches were against City and Liverpool, so there was plenty of opportunity for them to be leapfrogged, especially as Liverpool and Leeds both had a game in hand. While Derby and City faced off, and Leeds travelled to play West Brom, Liverpool hosted Bobby Robson's Ipswich Town at Anfield. The last time we met Robson was all the way back in episode 8, as a player for Fulham. Despite looking bound for relegation, Fulham's victory that day kick-started a great escape, winning 9 and drawing 2 of their last 13 matches to avoid the drop by 2 points. Finishing 18th for next season, Robson, now 34, would leave the club, taking on a player-manager role in Canada for the Vancouver Royals. The Royals had been part of the United Soccer Association, but that was now merging with the National Professional Soccer League to form a North American Soccer League, and Robson was tasked with forming a team for its inaugural season. The owner of the San Francisco Golden Gate Gales, George Flaherty, bought a controlling stake in the Royals and merged the 2 teams. Flaherty wanted the manager of the Californian side, Hungarian legend Ferenc Puskás, to take over the new team, with Robson demoted to assistant. However, Robson objected, pointing out that his contract stated he was head coach. To get around this, Puskás would manage his half of the club, while Robson dealt with his contingent of players. If it sounds unworkable, that's because it was, said Robson. The idea was that we would fuse the 2 teams together, like a pantomime horse. I didn't like Puskás and I didn't like the players he'd bought. He'd overpaid for some very moderate individuals. With his complaints falling on deaf ears, Robson took the Royals to court for breach of contract. Fortunately, he was soon given an out. Fulham were once again facing relegation, so in January 1968 he returned to his former club, this time as manager. Robson would be unable to save Fulham from relegation though, and found himself sacked in November of the following season. Expecting Fulham to bounce back at the first time of asking, the position of 8th wasn't considered good enough. He didn't even find out from the club that he had been let go, instead discovering it by seeing Robson's sack splashed across an Evening Standard placard on his drive home. The board's view was quickly found to be unrealistic, as Fulham would end the season rock bottom once again, dropping down into the 3rd division. At this point you could forgive Robson for thinking that maybe his managerial career just wasn't meant to be. He had moved his family across the world, only to be demoted before even taking charge of a game. And then at the club where he had become a legend as a player, playing for over a decade across 2 spells, he was dismissed in less than a year, not given the chance to regroup from a situation not of his own creation. What a first year in management. Disastrous, he recalled. I had it rough in that first year. I was being eaten alive by the game I so loved. Now on the dole, Robson was given a lifeline by friend Dave Sexton, who was in charge of Chelsea. Sexton wanted Robson to do some scouting for him, and he jumped at the opportunity. He was sent to watch Nottingham Forest's trip to face Ipswich Town, and while there got into a conversation with an exceptionally friendly director. This interaction made such a good impression on Robson that he ended up applying for the vacant manager's job at Portman Road, and his application was accepted. Ipswich were founded all the way back in 1878, however they didn't turn professional until 1936, only joining the Football League just as the Second World War was breaking out. They would spend the majority of the post-war period in the 3rd division, getting promoted to the 2nd for 1 season, only to drop straight back down the next. But their fortunes changed in 1955, when former Tottenham and England right-back Alf Ramsey turned to management. In back-to-back seasons, Ipswich would score over 100 goals, getting promoted to the 2nd division in 1957. They spent 4 seasons in the 2nd division, until the goals of Ray Crawford and Ted Phillips led them to promotion in 1961, seeing them play in the 1st division for the first time in their history. Ipswich would then go on to do the seemingly impossible, winning the league at their first attempt. Preston's Invincibles had managed the same feat, but that was in the first year of the Football League, when literally any of the competing teams could have said the same thing. Newly promoted Everton won the league in 1932, yet that was after spending decades in the 1st division, having already won it several times. Ipswich were the first club to rise from obscurity and immediately become champions. Shortly into the next season, Ramsey agreed to take over the national team, leaving before its end. He would be replaced by Jackie Milburn, who wouldn't have anywhere near the same success. Just 2 years after winning the league, Ipswich were relegated back down to the second division. Milburn was replaced by Bill McGarry, and after years of trying, Ipswich were in promotion again in 1968. However, McGarry would walk out just months into the campaign, leaving the vacancy that Robson applied for. Robson still wasn't really excelling as a manager at this point though. Ipswich would finish 12th in his first season in charge, then drop down to 18th the next, and then again to 19th. He'd even got into a physical fight with captain Bill Baxter and Tommy Carroll. Some supporters had seen enough, chanting Robson out after a home loss to Manchester United, yet the board showed far more patience. Chairman John Cobbold stated, "Our manager's name is not written on a chalkboard with a wet sponge nailed next to it." Ipswich were beginning to show some signs of improvement, however, as they came into this match, their final of the season, in 11th place. Robson had them set up in a 4-4-2 formation. Bill Shankly kept to the same 11 we saw in episode 36. After chopping and changing for most of the season, he had clearly found a formula he was happy with, now sticking with the same side for 10 matches in a row. The match devolved into a bad-tempered battle early on. It started with a foul by Peter Morris on Kevin Keegan so bad it was almost comical, booting the attacker in the back nowhere near the ball. This was enough to earn Morris a booking even in the famously brutal 70s, and drew responses from both Emlyn Hughes and, perhaps more worrying for the Ipswich players, Tommy Smith. Soon after, Hughes caught Colin Harper very late, and from then on the players seemed to be throwing themselves into every challenge, as well as fighting behind the referee's back. The main battle seemed to be between John Toshak and Derek Jefferson. Liverpool's principal way of attacking was going direct to Toshak, and he would then spread it wide for either Steve Highway or Brian Hall to beat their man and cross. The ball going up in the air gave Toshak and Jefferson the chance to throw themselves at one another under the guise of going for the ball, although it was Alan Hunter that provided the worst example, punching Toshak as they went up for a header. Nevertheless, it was Liverpool that were having the better of the game, spending most of the first half on the attack. Ipswich were well organised defensively though, pulling men back to help out the defence, and having the fullbacks fill in for the centre-backs if they were drawn wide. Ipswich were offering nothing going forward, however. They mostly looked to kick it long, handing it back to Liverpool, and when they didn't release the ball quickly, Liverpool would pressure them, winning it back that way. The Reds would take the lead shortly before half-time. The ball was spread out to Highway, but given space by Mick Mills, he elected not to take him on, instead opting to send in a cross. Keegan met it, knocking it on for Toshak to convert. The half-time break gave time for everyone to calm down, and so the players seemed to come out for the second with cooler heads, no longer flying into every challenge. This benefited Liverpool, who had a bit more space to play without being upended, and they nearly doubled their lead when a Hall cross saw Toshak and Chris Lawler have a game of head tennis in the Ipswich box, narrowly missing the goal. Ipswich mostly continued to pump the ball long, however Liverpool were easing off with their pressure, giving the away side more time on the ball. This allowed them to pick out passes, so they did manage to construct some attacks. Highway soon had them running back towards their own goal though. Already having a good game, the winger really came alive in the second half, repeatedly picking up the ball in space then flying past Mills. Midway through the half, Jefferson appeared to try reinitiating the war of the first half by going through the back of Keegan, but the forward didn't rise to the bait, brushing himself off and getting on with it. Smith squared the resulting free kick to Hughes to shoot from distance, deflecting in off Toshak to give him his second goal. Ipswich would manage some half chances, yet despite easing off, it was Liverpool who looked the likelier to add to the scoreline.
It's just one-way traffic. Every time Ipswich bang it out, back it comes.
The Reds easily held out to claim the 2 points, ending their Anfield fixtures with a victory. If they were going to win the league, they would have to seal it away from their home comforts. Elsewhere in the title race, City had beaten Derby to see them go top, a result that pleased the Kop when they got the news. Prior to the match, Shankly had told his peers Brian Clough and Allison that he hoped they both lost, and he got his wish. Derby lost the game, whereas City lost their chance of the league, becoming the first of the 4 challengers to drop out despite currently leading. As Liverpool and Derby still had to play each other, at least one of them would get a point, making it mathematically impossible for City to win. Leeds had also won away to West Brom to keep up the pressure. Derby would beat Liverpool 1-0 in their final fixture of the season to go top, with John McGovern scoring the only goal. However, both Liverpool and Leeds, who had beaten Chelsea, could still surpass them. With their destiny now out of their hands, Peter Taylor took the Derby players off on holiday to Mallorca, while Clough went with his family to the Isles of Scilly. The final games would come just 2 days after Leeds beat Arsenal in the FA Cup final. The losers were to host Liverpool at Highbury, while Leeds only needed a draw to secure the double away to Wolves. With allegations circulating that the Wolves players were bribed by Leeds, which Belly Bremner later won a libel case over, manager Bill McGarry warned his players that he would ensure any players caught not trying would be investigated. It was enough motivation to ensure Wolves put up a fight despite having nothing left to play for, and shortly before half-time they took the lead. Meanwhile, down in London, Liverpool were trying to break down Arsenal. If they were tired, they didn't show it, remembered Toshak. As the teams went in at half-time, it was Derby who would be named champions. Wolves would double their lead partway through the second half, and although Bremner pulled a goal back for Leeds, they wouldn't manage another, missing out on the title at the final hurdle. Liverpool appeared to have finally got their breakthrough in the dying minutes though, as Toshak scored a tap-in, only to have it ruled out for offside. I was there because I had reacted quicker than anybody else, argued Toshak. I think I was onto it before the linesman really knew what was going on and it was unfairly chalked off. To this day, in my mind, I know the goal was good. The match would finish goalless, seeing Derby win the league by a single point. Liverpool would finish third, behind Leeds but ahead of City due to goal average. To come so close and once again end up empty-handed was agonising for the Reds, but given how poorly they had started the season, they had done well to even be in the running. The fact they had found a winning formula for the run-in would appear to bode well for the next season, however they had thought the same about their FA Cup run in 1971. It was now 6 years without a trophy for the Reds, and Shankly's second Liverpool side was still yet to prove itself. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to support the channel. This will help show my work to more people and ensure that you see future videos. You can also help me out by sharing this video with people you think would like it. You can keep up with what I'm working on by following on social media, links are in the description, but most importantly by supporting Holding Midfield on Patreon. Without financial support, these videos will simply cease to exist, as they just require too much time and effort. So if you enjoy these videos and would like to see more of them, please consider helping me out financially, and in return you'll get access to exclusive content, as well as early access to those that appear on YouTube. Thanks for watching.